And after this story, hero to men everywhere, Ben Zobrist, who retired after a 14-year career in baseball, learned that his wife was having an affair with their pastor. And according to court documents that surfaced last week, the same pastor was accused of defrauding Zobrist's charity of apparently hundreds of thousands of dollars. The 40-year-old ex-infielder seeks $6 million in damages from Byron Yon, who is the pastor. He also is seeking money from the pastor for damages for defrauding him and, sleeping with his wife. But Zobrist is a two-time World Series winner. Like I said, Chicago Cubs legend, MVP with the Cubs for that World Series. Like he brought that city the championship essentially. So Ethan. So not only did this guy defraud Zobrist's charity, not only did he make him question his faith in the Lord, but he also slept with his wife. What do you make of all this?
Zobrist is a saint, man. Like, he's a serious Christian. He loves his faith. He has a bunch of kids. I'm getting confused. He's a great guy. There's so many stories of him just being a sweetheart around the stadium, around the Cubs. He's a humble guy. He would ride his bike home and to and from home to stadium every day, Wrigley Field. There's Ben Zobrist on his bike, like fucking World Series MVP, just casually on the bike ride. Like, the guy's so humble. He's such a nice guy. He's always got a smile on his face. He was such a big part of not only the World Series win, but when he was with the Cubs, like he was always reliable. And he just breaks your heart. Like, wow, like his wife, who is supposedly like a Christian rock genre, she's supposed to be a good Christian, like went and slept with the pastor of all people. Like, not only that, like he's their counselor. He was their marriage counselor. Like,
right.
He was, and apparently like he's like, okay, you should give her some space. Like, that's what he would advise Zobrist. And like, yeah, so I could go sleep on the side. Like, come on, dude, get out of here. Like, like, how do you gotta do that? Yeah, it's awful. Like, literally, you're scum of the earth, those two. Yeah. Like, and I know they were when these allegations, when the rumors first started to come out. I want to say it might have been 2019. If I remember correctly, Zobrist, he took the whole beginning of the year off. He didn't come back till maybe August or late July, because he was just he didn't want to be at the stadium because they broke his heart. Like, and there's a lot of rumors like, oh, she slept with a bandmate, she slept with an ex so. I didn't hear that, like, oh, she didn't sleep with the pastor. I was like, holy shit. Like, all of those, like, the fact that she was just sleeping around. Hang on, there's no noise. The fact that she was sleeping around, it's like, come on. Like, I guess really nice guys, they just can't get a win. Zobrist is the definition of a nice guy. And
man, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
The fact that it happened to such a nice guy, obviously.
Yeah,
and like, look, I'm not gonna, we don't know everything about their marriage or whatever, but like the optics of this are just
oh my god, yeah.
shit.
They always
bad.
look happy. They have like, I think the two of them for Halloween, him and his wife, and like at least his 3 kids, they all dress up as Power Rangers. Everyone's happy. They look like a perfect couple that actually want to be together, like, because they love each other. And then she's off doing who knows what, like on tour, like or with the caster too. Yeah. So
man.
And then there was like some hope when he came back. Everyone was like, wait, okay, what song is he gonna play? Because his walk-up song was always one of her songs, Juliana, and I think that year it was like kind of a shitty version of Benny and the Jets. So literally, it's just like the walk-up is like her just screaming, Benny. And then he comes back and everyone's like, all right, what song is he gonna play? What song is he gonna play? And it's Benny and the Jets. I'm like, oh, maybe they work things out. Maybe the rumors are wrong. Maybe,
I love how I love how you can tell like his relationship status by his walk-up song like that.
Right? All these. Oh, trust me. Like, I love Chicago, but one thing, we are not good when it comes to rumors. We will like go to town on all the rumors. Like, just so maybe everyone's thinking, oh, maybe they worked it out, whatever. Maybe he's just being the better man. Showing like being the better person. And then the truth comes out a few years later. It's like, all right, cool. Yep, no, she's a bitch. The passer, fucking a passer. How are you gonna like? What kind of
How are
fucking
you?
bullshit is that?
This is like, dude. It's just the mistrust that's there. Like church will never be the same again. Church will
Really,
never
no,
be the
yeah,
same.
and the church, all the Christian churches, they've been struggling. And like, geez, yeah, you really, congrats, you really made a.
Hey, welcome back to the show. We're keeping it real, goes right. Welcome back to Real Take Sports Talk live here on YouTube. Welcome to everyone who's watching. Welcome to everyone who's listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you guys haven't already, please be sure to hit that like button, help out the algorithm, help this show grow. Hit that subscribe button and also hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. If you're listening on the podcast, be sure to hit that follow button on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. Got a lot to talk about today. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar called out in NBA players who remain unvaccinated. We have Joe Judge, the head coach of the Giants, ripping analytics, even though he has quite the losing record as a head coach in the NFL. We'll talk about him a little bit. Also going to be talking about the Bears. We got a few things to talk about in the Bears. One, their offensive struggles and the desire, the need, the utter contempt also towards Bears head coach Matt Nagy. We'll talk about that. And the Bears might get a new stadium. That's going to be in the news as well. Nolan leaving ESPN and much, much, much more right here on Real Take Sports Talk Live, episode 57. We are 57 episodes deep. And there's no better way, honestly, to start than with football, I think. Or at least I think, guys. I think football is the way to go. So let's start talking about football. And let's talk about the one, the only, the infamous Joe Judge, who is, in case you didn't know, the head coach of the Giants. A lot of people seem not to know his name, but anyway. So Joe Judge was apparently asked by reporters about what he thought about analytics, and this refers to his decision not to go for it on fourth down and in their previous game. So he was asked about whether going for it on fourth down was kind of an analytical decision or whether those decisions are made in some other method. And Judge apparently brought up Microsoft Excel of all things. He says analytics is just a tool. You can look at it. You can look at a stat sheet, he says. But we're going to redo that for everyone who's listening because I messed that up. I fumbled that up. I don't know. But anyway, so Joe Judge was asked about analytics, and he gave one of the worst answers I've ever heard. He said that analytics is, quote, just a tool, which it is. But he went on to say, you can look at the stat sheet all you want. I promise you, if Excel was going to win football games, Bill Gates would be killing it right now. But you've got to take those numbers. So first of all, I want it to be known, Bill Gates is killing it. He's got $129 billion to his name, Joe. So, I don't know. That point right there, non-starter right there, my guy. I don't know what you're trying to get to there. Bill Gates is definitely killing it. Number two, Joe Judge said that analytics, you can look at the stat sheet all you want, but it's not going to win you football games. There's a lot of teams who use analytics. And look, one thing is true. Analytics won't win you football games, but I'll tell you this, Joe Judge ain't winning you football games either. As the head coach of the New York Football Giants, Joe Judge is 6-13, including 0-3 to start this year, which this year was supposed to be a pivotal year for the New York Giants. They have their quarterback. This is the third or fourth year you have your quarterback now. You seem to be building this team. You've been trying to build this offensive line for the past 3 years. And apparently, you haven't been able to do that because you guys suck. So the team sucks. You guys are in these close games and you can't finish. So Joe Judge can say that analytics don't win football games, and I'll agree with this. I will say this: if your entire game plan is 100% based around analytics all the time, then yeah, that's not going to win you football games by itself. But analytics plus the talent plus the understanding of situations, that's going to win you football games. That's been proven. Look at the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens are one of the most analytical football franchises there are right now. They understand analytics. They use it. John Harbaugh, the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, refers to it more than any other coach. They refer to the stat sheet. They refer to what works in certain situations for them, what doesn't work for certain situations for their offense. And they're at the forefront, honestly, of the league in a lot of that kind of stuff. And they know when they're going to go for it, when not to. Now, that doesn't mean if your team is doing really well in a situation where you think you're going to go for it, that doesn't mean you don't go for it. You're going to go for it in those situations. But Joe Judge out here is judging analytics, and he's taking this stance against analytics. These comments are 100% foul by someone like Joe Judge, because if he was winning, he might have a leg to stand on, because the analytics, apparently he doesn't use them, and they're not hurting the team. But being the head coach of the New York Football Giants, apparently he's hurting this team because he can't get them to win. They're in these close games, game after game after game, and he is not helping them finish. Does that also involve the talent on the team? Absolutely. The team is not as talented as many other teams there are out there in the NFL. But Joe Judge also isn't a good head coach. And I think we know that. Because good head coaches, you know what they do? They rally their team to wins. And Joe Judge doesn't do that. And maybe, who knows, maybe the Giants could use some analytics. Maybe they could use some analytics. Maybe they should look at the stat sheet. Maybe they should look at how Joe Judge, who comes over as a Bill Belichick assistant. All these Bill Belichick assistants getting head coaching jobs, by the way. The only one that's really worked out that I can think of is Brian Flores down in Miami. And even then, he's only like 2 years in. So we'll see what happens with him. But he's the only one I can think of that's actually worked out. You go through the rest of them. Matt Patricia, burned out. Even Romeo Crennel, who's a great coordinator, not good head coach. You go to Eric Mangini, good coordinator, bad head coach. Josh McDaniels, great coordinator, bad head coach. Joe Judge, I think he's a special teams coordinator. I'm sure he was a great coordinator. He's a bad head coach, though. He's a bad head coach. He doesn't want to look at analytics. Yeah, sure, Joe, don't look at analytics. I'm telling you, man, they could probably use some analytics up in New York. It's not going to hurt you at this point because you're already doing everything else wrong. This team has done everything else wrong for the past 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Ever since they had that playoff disaster in 2016. Ever since then, this team has just been on a downhill spiral. They had the opportunity to fix it, and they haven't. Joe Judge comes over as a Bill Belichick assistant, and people think, oh, he's going to give us a year. He's going to be the next best thing. We gave him a year, go 6-10, somehow one game out of the playoffs. Okay, Giants fans still going to complain about not making the playoffs because that's what they do. All they do is complain. Even though you won 6 games, win one more goddamn game. But okay, let's see what he does the next year. Starts off 0-3. Now, I'm not calling for him to be fired. Like, I want to make that clear. I'm not calling for Joe Judge to be fired, but who the hell is Joe Judge to judge people who use analytics? Who the hell is Joe Judge to say that analytics don't win football games? Because I'll tell you this, Joe, they win more games than you do. And look, I'll say this. The use of analytics in sports, it is a tool. It is 100% a tool, and I'll agree with him to this extent. You can't use analytics and just analytics and solely rely on that. But analytics combined with experience, combined with knowing what to do in certain situations, combined with great play calling, combined with great coaching, combined with talent, analytics helps you tremendously because you already understand these situations in your head, what works and what doesn't work. So the decisions sometimes are automatically made for you. On the flip side, analytics also provide you with, situational tools. They also provide you with the options that work optimally given your situation. So they are a tool that I think you should use. And maybe, who knows, maybe if Joe Judge used those in the first few games, maybe if they knew the situation and they looked at the analytics of running soft coverage in the fourth quarter on the last play on the last drive of the game during that Washington game, maybe they would have won. Maybe throwing screen passes on 3rd and 18 or whatever. Maybe throwing screen passes on 3rd and 18 against a weaker defense. Maybe you don't do that. Maybe if you look at the analytics, I think the analytics could have told you that, Joe. Unbelievable, this guy, Joe Judge, man. Unbelievable, this guy. The gall of him. The gall of him. This guy who hasn't even won 10 games. Who hasn't even won, 10 games. This guy who doesn't even have, he has over double the amount of losses that he does wins. You don't got a leg to stand on, Joey boy. Not a single one. And look, I like the Giants. Danny Dimes, I don't think is the problem in New York. I think he's just not a franchise quarterback. That's a whole different thing, but he's not the problem in New York. Joe Judge and the culture that the New York Giants have down there definitely is part of the problem. But y'all let me know what you guys think. Hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Let's move on, everyone, and talk about one of the main topics for today. And this is something that is divided a lot of people on the internet. I've gotten a lot of comments about it on my internet or on my Twitter and everything. But yeah, sorry. Don't look at your text messages during a podcast, people. That's a very rude thing to do, and I apologize for that. Anyway, so there's a lot of hullabaloo about what's going on in the NBA, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is one of the more prominent players to speak, or former players rather, to speak out about it. So the NBA comes down with this ruling that unvaccinated players will not be paid for games they miss in this upcoming season in either San Francisco or New York. And for context, San Francisco and the city of San Francisco and New York, they have said that for players who play in the stadiums there, who attend those games, if they're not vaccinated, they're not allowed to enter the building. Therefore, they're not allowed to play. So there's basically a vaccine mandate there. And that is for the protection of other players, protection of the fans, protection for everybody. So there are some players and there's some advocates out there who are saying that these players should have a right not to be vaccinated and blah, blah, blah. Well, one former player, you might know him, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, made some noise this week, and when he said this about NBA players, he said, quote, "The NBA should insist that all players and staff are vaccinated or remove them from the team." He goes that far. He calls for removing them from the team. He said, quote, "There is no room for players who are willing to risk the health and lives of their teammates, the staff, and the fans simply because they are unable to grasp the seriousness of the situation or do the research." Now, here's the big question, right? Are Kareem's comments fair or foul? Now, there's an argument to be made about whether or not they should play. I think that whether or not they should be on the team, I don't know. I feel like you don't even need to go that far. I personally think if they don't get the vaccine, don't play them. And the NBA is more than in their right to have that be a mandate, and that's the other question. Should players be forced to get the vaccine? Here's what I will say. I'm going to be very clear. I'm not going to name specific players. They've already been named a lot in the media. I'm not going to pile on even more to that right now. I've already talked about this in other videos. But players who don't get the vaccine, in my opinion, and in the opinion of facts, are a danger to spread the virus, mutate the virus, more so than players who are not vaccinated. They are in more danger to suffer from COVID than other players are, and other fans are, and vaccinated fans especially are. So, okay. If they don't want to get vaccinated, you don't need to force them. I'm not going to hold you down and put the needle in your arm. No. But if the NBA decides that they don't want players to play, or they're not going to allow you to play, that's on you, because you are presenting a clear and present danger. That's true. You are presenting a clear and present danger to those around you. There's a reason you got these protections in there, all right? Like, again, you're more than your right to not want to. But the thing is, I'm not going to get into an argument about facts or what have you. The facts are very clear that these vaccines work and they're effective. That's just the truth. And if that's not your truth, okay, cool. Don't listen to facts. That's fine. But the thing is, it's like this. It's if a football player, right? If a football player says, I don't want to wear this helmet. I want to wear, a less protective helmet than what the league has regulated, right? If a football player said that, the league's going to be like, okay, cool. If that is more than your right to do that. You're not playing on Sunday, though. You're not suiting up and going on the field on Sunday. That's just not happening. But okay, you can do that. Go, more power to you. It's exactly what this is. More power to you for believing in what you believe and rejecting one of the biggest accomplishments in Western medicine in ever. Cool. You're not playing. You're not presenting a danger to the fans. That's a liability. You're not presenting a danger to the other players. That's a liability. You're not doing any of that. And look, I am someone who believes greatly in player empowerment. And this is what I got. I got involved in an exchange online about player empowerment. Somebody was telling me that we should empower players to make their own decisions about their health. And I said, okay, yeah, sure. We should empower players to make their own decisions about their health. It is your decision if you are a player and you don't want to get vaccinated. Cool. That's your decision. And it's the decision of the NBA. It's the decision of 90% of the NBA players to get vaccinated. And it's the decision of the NBA to say, okay, you're not gonna be a risk to other people in the stadium or other people around you. And the idea of player empowerment, I will always empower a player to do something for their benefit. I will always empower if there's players, whether they play football, basketball, whatever. I will empower them to do things that are in their benefit. If players want to get paid more for putting so much time in a sport, for putting their bodies through hell every single day to stay in shape, to stay on the top of their athletic pinnacle, if I'm going to empower them to get paid as much money, as much of the pie as possible, most of the pie if possible, always. If players want to practice less, I'm going to empower them to do that. If players want to maximize their potential, maximize their earnings, I'm always going to be behind that. Anything that benefits them. But if you're telling me that player empowerment is empowering someone to make a decision that is bad for them, that science proves is bad for them, that basic logic proves is bad for them, I'm not going to empower someone to do that. That's not empowerment. I'm not going to empower someone to do something that is not only detrimental to themselves, but other people around them. I will never be in favor of that, and no one should. I will always be in favor of empowering people who are going to be exploited. If the NBA Players Association, or if the NBA tomorrow tries to negotiate something or tries to say that the players need to get paid significantly less of the pie, like 30% less of what they're getting paid now, absolutely, I will be the first person calling out that bullshit. But if you're telling me I should empower players not to be vaccinated to protect themselves from a new disease that's killed 600,000 people here, millions around the world, and done God knows what to people's immune system in the long term, nah, I'm not down with that. And look, if you don't agree with me, cool, that's your right. Don't agree with me. I'm not going to tell you not to listen to my show if you don't agree with me. That's fine. You can clear this segment out of your mind, whatever you want to do, but don't come out here and tell me that I'm not empowering players by making them or I'm not empowering players by not agreeing with decisions that they're making that are actually not benefiting them. And this is not a thing. If there were players out there who have genuine reasons not to be vaccinated, and there are very few, but there are genuine reasons. There's issues with blood clots and all those types of things. And again, those are very case-by-case basis, and they're very rare. But if there's a real reason for you not to get vaccinated, okay, go. But if it's just one of those things where you don't agree and you can't really name, or you can't really say real facts about it, and you're just doing dumb emotional releases. I got nothing for you, man. I really got nothing for you. I got no sympathy for you. I'm not gonna help someone be a danger to other people. I'm not gonna empower you to do that. And we got some comments that are gonna be removed from the chat because it's my show and I can do whatever I want. Players have the right to do whatever they want with their body. I'll tell you that. Players definitely have the right to do with whatever they want with their body. Everyone has the right to do whatever they want with your body, 100%. As long as and the NBA has a right to say that you can't play if you're a danger to other people. Just like colleges have the right to say you can't come if you don't get your flu shots updated. I don't know, man. I don't know. But hey, again, if you want to if you want to go to another country that has malaria outbreaks all the time without getting a malaria vaccine or a shot, cool. That's your right. They're not going to let you in a lot of those times, but cool. It's just laughable. It is just laughable. Again, the player empowerment. It's not player empowerment. Player empowerment, that's an abuse of the term of player empowerment. That is, it's gross, actually, when I think about it. It's actually gross. Anyway, let's move on and talk about something a little more lighthearted. Let's talk about my favorite channel. Psych! Not my favorite channel. Let's talk about ESPN because someone very important just left ESPN. One of ESPN's best on-air personalities has announced that she is leaving the station. Katie Nolan is now leaving ESPN. She will be joining Fox Sports later on this year. Nolan hosted podcasts titled such as Sports, Always Late. She also made appearances on Always Questionable. Nolan's move from Fox Sports to ESPN was celebrated in the media circles. However, despite a contract that paid her over $1 million a year, she was never really featured as much as she probably should be. She stated this on Twitter. I thought about sending this tweet for weeks. I still have no clue about how to make it and there are just noises in the background. Great. Thank you, people. Anyway, Katie Nolan is leaving ESPN. I completely fudged that up. Whatever. I don't care. It's one of those days. Katie Nolan is leaving ESPN. She wrote a tweet where she said, I've thought about sending this tweet for weeks. I still have no clue how to make it not make you all roll your eyes, she said. And she went on to say, alas, the obvious thing has happened. I no longer work at ESPN. I'm grateful for my time here. I made incredible friendships and valuable mistakes that she said she learned from, and wish her luck in her career. Nolan's move from Fox Sports to ESPN was celebrated in media circles. However, despite having a contract that paid her $1 million a year, she was never really featured as much as she probably should be. And this is a growing trend you're seeing from ESPN. You're seeing a lot of popular on-air personalities. Katie Nolan, by the way, is one of those very popular on-air personalities. She, in my opinion, was one of the more talented people on ESPN for a very long time that I wished I saw more. I wish that she had her own show that was featured more prominently because she was funny, she was energetic, she actually broke things down in more of an analysis-based argument instead of just, doing what normal people on ESPN do, which is just make emotional responses and yell into the mic, which I do sometimes from time to time. But hey, she was different, and she stood out in a field of people who just tended to be very much the same mold. Like, there's a lot of people at ESPN who just kind of do a very similar thing, and they dig their heels into one stance or whatever as far as sports go. Like Cowboy Stephen A. Smith, he hates the Cowboys. That's his entire personality on a lot of segments. But she was different, and I like that. And with her leaving now, and her having the problems that apparently it looks like she did, she talked about mistakes in there, and I'm sure ESPN, a company that we know, especially over the past few months, has made a lot of mistakes, and we know have made a lot of mistakes in the past. I think this is troubling for ESPN because Katie Nolan is arguably now the hottest free agent there is as far as sports in sports broadcasting. I think Katie Nolan could go to FS1, she'd go back to Fox and be really good. I think Katie Nolan could go to CBS and, maybe become the face of that network, that sports network, rather. There's a lot of things that she could do that I think she would be successful at. But for ESPN, this is troubling because we saw a lot of people leave. We saw a lot of people from the NBA coverage leave this summer, a lot of talented people. And we're seeing like these mass exoduses. They let a lot of people like Dan Le Batard a year ago go. And it seems like ESPN again has just doubled down on this whole debate culture, this hot take culture of sports talk that has really made a lot of people reductive in the way that they view sports, really made a lot of people dim and just not being able to really see what good sports is or break down sports because they're not really seeing it from ESPN, which was once the worldwide leader in sports. Now it's just not what it used to be. Like FS1 does what ESPN does, but better. Undisputed is a vastly better version of First Take. Vastly better. It's not even close. Like, I would much rather hear Shannon Sharp, a person who actually played sports, talk about sports than I would Stephen A. Smith or whoever else they got on there. Even Max Kellerman. I would rather hear Shannon Sharp than Max Kellerman. And that's a problem. I would rather hear Nick Wright than a Max Kellerman or a Stephen A. Smith. I would rather hear Chris Broussard talk to me about sports and about basketball especially than some of these other people they got on there. And that is an issue because ESPN started from a point of so much power as far as what their influence and what they meant to sports talk. And now that power has diminished vastly. And look, Fox Sports has invested a lot. They've invested a lot of money in getting people like Colin Cowherd, Skip Bayless, locking them in for years to come, and making them the faces of that network and really building a brand there and adding pieces like Joy Taylor and many others. But that is also on ESPN. Those problems are also on ESPN. So ESPN should be concerned, and if you're somehow a fan of ESPN, you should be concerned because the shows are basically the same. They're all just reductive versions of First Take that are actually not even as good as First Take, and that's the other problem. So how do you fix it? You fix it by not just doing debate all the time. And even if you're going to do debate all the time, don't make it just a parody of something you've already done in the morning. Like make it something different. Make it make arguments. Have the people really make arguments. Don't just do it for clicks because that's all ESPN does right now. Is they're doing everything for clicks or whatever. And a lot of times they make emotional arguments rather than statistically accurate arguments and based in that. And people, they don't like to hear that. And the people who do, they become the toxic people in sports that no one likes to talk to. So there's a lot of problems at ESPN. And this is honestly a microcosm of what's happening because if you're going to drive someone like Katie Nolan away, man, your network is in for a lot of hard times. It's the American dream, Dusty Rhodes will say. Hard times, Steady. But yeah, a lot of different takes here about this one. Let's move on and talk about our last two segments today are going to be about one football team in particular that I have wanted to cover for a while now. That team would be the Chicago Bears. Or should I say formerly the Chicago Bears, soon to be the formerly Chicago Bears, because they might be moving out of Chicago. And that's a problem if you're a Bears fan. Before I do, though, be sure to hit that like button, guys. Help out the algorithm. Subscribe if you haven't already. YouTube.com/RealTakeSports. Hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Let's talk about the Bears. So, bye-bye Soldier Field. It looks like the Chicago Bears might be leaving Chicago. The team signed a lease to purchase I keep messing up. See, this is why I need a co-host. I need a co-host on this show, don't I? Taking applications, by the way. RealTakeSportsTalk@gmail.com. Anyway, so it looks like the Chicago Bears might be leaving Chicago. The team announced that they had purchased a property in Arlington Heights, which is about an hour away from Chicago. And it is the Arlington Heights International Racecourse. The Bears have several years left on their lease in Chicago Park and Soldier Field, and the two sides were negotiating terms for a new deal when the team submitted a bid for this racetrack site. And look, put this in context, Arlington Heights is an hour away from Chicago proper. It's in the suburbs. It's very, very far away. It's going to be a pain for fans to get to. And the fact that they've already bought this property, it means the writing's on the wall. The Bears are no longer going to be in Chicago. The Bears are going to be the Arlington Heights Bears. They're probably not going to change the name. I'm not saying that, but they're definitely not going to be in Chicago, and that I don't like that. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not a Bears fan, but I hate the fact that the team is now going to be, an hour away, and I don't even know if it's that metro accessible or subway accessible. So it's going to be a pain to get to the stadium. It's going to be more expensive to get to the stadium, and I'm sure with a new stadium, they always love to jack up those prices, so getting to games, spending money at games, all that stuff is going to be more expensive, and it's going to be a vastly different game day experience, especially considering the fact that if you've ever been to Soldier Field, it's a weird-looking stadium. It's a little older, but it is one of the more, I guess, historical sites in as far as sports stadiums go. It's been around since the 30s. Granted, the Bears have only been there since the 70s, but when you think of the Chicago Bears, you think of Soldier Field. That's one of the first things you really think of. That's how ingrained Soldier Field is. And if you've ever been to Soldier Field too, it is on the location is like 10 out of 10 as far as stadiums go in cities. It is a 10 out of 10 location right on the waterfront, right in the middle, in the heart of the city. It is right there. It's easy to get to. Fans don't have to spend money on parking. They can get to it via subway or via metro, however they want to. And it's very easy to get to, so it's not that far away. You don't have to spend, all that gas money going out there. A lot of people in the city, by the way, don't have cars. That's also a problem. So what do we think of this? I think it's a terrible move. Because you had the primetime location. You had great fans who keep coming back even after watching your product, which is shit, by the way. And now you're moving it far away, and it kind of reminds me of the Washington football team. The Washington football team, they have a stadium, by the way, that is in Landover, Maryland. For anyone who doesn't know where that is, I lived in D.C. for a while. If you're in D.C. proper and you want to take the metro, which is like the subway, the train, over to FedEx Field, and depending from where you're from, usually if you're anywhere on a metro line in the city, it's going to take you about at least 40 minutes, minimum 40 minutes, because they're so packed on Sundays, 40 minutes to get to the Landover metro stop. And then on top of that, it's going to take you about another 20 to 30 minutes at least to walk over from the metro stop all the way down to the stadium, which is a wild, wild walk. You're walking right across people's houses, and it's not accessible for people who are in the city that you're supposed to represent. And it's one of my biggest pet peeves, because you know what this does? Because this is also like a whole argument about, rich versus poor, because when you do things like this, when you move the stadium so far away, more into the suburbs, it really cuts out an entire subsection of your fans, because a lot of the lower income fans who are actually probably more local to the city and mean more to the city, they're going to be either priced out, or it's going to be less accessible for them to get to in a timely fashion, so they're going to choose not to go. And when you move out to the suburbs, you're trying to attract usually richer people, more affluent people, and it really cuts out an entire subsection of your fan base. And that's the alienation between the fans and the ownership that I've seen. Fans don't care. Owners don't care about fans. Like, let's be honest about this. Owners really do not care about fans. Owners only care about their bottom line, and the Bears are no exception. The Bears are a team who have some of the most inept ownership in the entire league. The McCaskies, what the McCaskies have done would make old man House turn in his grave, because what the McCaskies have done is they've allowed ineptitude, they've allowed mediocrity to just fester for so long. And from their perspective, it's, well, the team's making the playoffs. They've made the playoffs 2 of the past 3 years. There's no reason to fire Matt Nagy or change GMs, even though if you watch the product on the field, you would 100% say this team could be significantly better if they had a better head coach and if Matt Nagy was not on the play call. If he was not calling plays, this team would be extremely better. But instead, they're barely making the playoffs because they have an elite defense. They're still in games. And because the offense does just enough sometimes to win 8 games a season, it is the team winds up making the playoffs. And the McCaskies are like, well, we're making money and we're making the playoffs. And they're not football people. So what do they say? They say, oh, well, there's no problem here. We don't need to change anything. And that's the disconnect. And that's what bad ownership is. Bad ownership. There's 2 types of bad owners in the NFL. You have the owners who are, very cut off from what's going on, and they only care about the money, and they don't care about winnings. McCaskies would be a perfect example of this. The other bad types of owners are the ones that are too involved. Take Jerry Jones. Take Shad Khan. The ones who are so involved in day-to-day operations and interfere in everything that they just tank the team. The best owners, look at Art Rooney, look at Steve Bisciotti, look at those types of guys. Those are the types of owners that know how to hire good football people and know when their teams needs a change. They hire good football people. That's why they don't change head coaches. They don't change GMs that often at all. Baltimore's only had 3 head coaches in the past 20 years. 2 of them have had 10-plus year tenures. So look at that. The Steelers have had 3 head coaches, I think, for the past, 50 years? How many head coaches the Bears had in the past 10? There you go. Bad ownership at play. So, this stadium move is just a bad move in general. I'm not approving of it at all. And I think it needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed by fans. Fans, you got to speak out against this. You got to let them know that you won't tolerate this. And the city of Chicago needs to really buckle down on this one.